Welcome, this is Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schwartz, and a quick message before we get to today's guest, because I am happy to announce that I have taken my MCAT, which is a little small thing, helps you get into medical school. Apparently, I was told I had to do it. It was very sad. But the important thing with that is that now I don't have to study anymore. I'm free for a while. So write into the assistpod@yahoo.com, text me, email me, call me, whatever you want to do, to give me ideas for stories, give me ideas for pods, because it's been infrequent here, obviously, with everything going on in the world and also everything going on with the MCAT in my life. But now that's over, and so now we're going to try to bust out 2 pods a week. We're going to try to do article or 2 a week. Of course, the Schwartz Report came out last week, the first one. Second one will be coming out this week as well. So I'm going to try to be more consistent with some stuff now that I have that over. So please give me ideas, because I would love to hear them all. And this man, we have no idea what we want to talk about today. And that's usually how our conversations go. He is succeeding me as treasurer, which is a really tough shoe to fill. Shoes. Can't even speak English. For Pyramid Abs in this fall. And he's just an awesome, great guy that I've grown closer to, as we both are from the state of Michigan. So I'm going to butcher your last name. I had to practice it 7 times when I announced you. But it's Parshva V.
Yeah, you did fine. Yeah, it's great to be on.
Good enough. I will take that B- as a pass there. I'll take that pass-fail grade right there. How you been?
All about the effort, though. I appreciate it. I've been good. I've been in quarantine kind of since the last couple of months. I'm in Michigan right now. We've kind of eased up, though, in the last couple of weeks. But before then, I was pretty much at home. And, yeah, I've just been studying for the MCAT and chilling.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit got really hammered, right? I know you're not necessarily right near Detroit, but just in that general area in the lower half of the state, right? Michigan got really crushed by the virus.
Oh, yeah. Even my county was, I think in the top 10 counties that were hit the worst with COVID. But I also believe that that's one of the reasons why our governor took such strict actions compared to the other states that were going through this, just because we were affected the most by it.
Yeah, that was tough for a while. I remember seeing it on the news, because I do try to pay attention to Michigan stuff that's going on. I still have a lot of family up there. And, I mean, there is a full-on revolt in Lansing, right? The capital?
Oh, yeah. People showed up with, guns to the state capitol, which I was thinking, I'm like, okay, that's cool. You're coming up with, guns, but you're not going to be able to do anything, right? As soon as they shoot even, one bullet, they'll have the state police and everyone come in. But yeah, people were really upset with how strict our regulations were compared to other states. But I think we are sort of seeing the benefits of it now. We are not the second wave that's coming right now. We haven't been hit as dramatically compared to states like Florida or Texas or any of these other states, Arizona especially. So.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm going to be driving down to Florida tomorrow. We're taping this on Sunday. So the 28th. So, in those cases, they're spiking and such. I'm staying with my grandparents for most of the trip, and they're obviously over 75. They are 75, I think. So they're right in that demographic where we're seeing a lot of bad outcomes with everything. I don't know. I've been torn on this, because obviously, it's dangerous, right? The virus is dangerous. Mm-hmm. The thing that bugs me a little bit, though, is that I've seen a lot of comparisons to 1918, right? The Spanish flu.
Yeah.
And if you look at the numbers, it just doesn't hold up. That comparison does not hold up. And, of course, with all this, we're talking about, it's very sad how many people we've lost in the world everywhere, how many people have been affected by this, jobs, businesses, all that stuff being closed and shut down, and the rates of depression and mental health issues going up now because everyone's been locked up. And I don't think that's incorrect either. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that it's such a complex thing that's really tough to try to predict. Right? I mean, I was listening today. I mean, there's more and more, I guess, people thinking that it might have been actually created in a lab. because of the way it acts and stuff like that. And I don't personally think that. As we both know, studying this stuff to become doctors, nature is capable of producing some wicked things, and and stuff like that on its own. I don't think it necessarily needs to be human made, but I don't know, Matt. What's your been your general takeaway with everything, with certain countries, obviously allowing their sports leagues to come back, our own league struggling a bit, and just kind of like the overall response to it?
I think, in my opinion, there's sort of a battle of priorities based on if you want to prioritize, public health and make sure that people don't get infected versus the economy, right? We have so many small businesses, shut down for long periods of time because of this whole COVID thing. Like you said, many of these major sports, leagues like the NBA, all these other sports, they're shut down as well. So it's sort of like a pros and cons list. Like, do you not want people to get infected, but, people to lose their jobs? Everyone stuck inside, contributes to a lot of negative mental health issues, right? And it's sort of that balancing act that every government has to take in terms of what they value more and what they prioritize more in each situation. And that's, I think, based on which one you value more. You either support some strict regulations or you don't.
Yeah, it's just also such a weird thing because I do think we had to shut down completely like we did for a little bit, right? Because the issue is some numbers are comparable to the flu, right? I know that's been the thing. It's like, this is not the flu. It is the flu. I don't stand in either of those camps. It's a virus, so it does share some similarities with the flu, how it works. But I also think this is a completely new thing. I know we had SARS, which is kind of the same family a while ago, but this is completely new on the spread of this type of virus.
I think what really makes this very new is that how contagious it is. A lot of the other outbreaks that we had, like Ebola or SARS, like you said, they've been a lot more deadlier, but they haven't been as contagious as this virus has. So I think the good thing is, though, at least, that it's not as fatal. If you contract coronavirus, especially at our age demographic, there's a very low chance of you actually being killed by corona. But it's still important to consider all the immunocompromised people that we have in the population, and especially the older population, that even though we may not be as severely affected, we may be carriers and impact that population negatively.
Right, and I think that's a really key point, is that early on, there were real risks or real worries that this was going to be super fatal and, reach numbers as the aforementioned 1918 flu, as the Black Death, as stuff like that have completely reset, civilizations throughout the time period. We now have enough data that that's just not true. That's just not how lethal this virus is, and that's a great thing. For the general public, obviously, that we're not going to end up with 50 million people dead, or some reports. I know we talked early on in March about it, where you were like, you sent me something, you're like, yeah, they think it could be this much. It was like, holy cow, we have problems. So glad it's not going to hit that, but still, obviously, like you're saying, there are still a lot of issues, And I think we were talking off air, but we go to the biggest university in the country, right, with thousands and thousands of international students. And now that we know it was back here in November, or roughly around there, I believe that's the last update I saw to when they dated its arrival here in America, that we were definitely exposed. And to me, I have an antibody test incoming, so we'll see what happens. I know we're talking about that off air, so we'll see what that comes back with. But if I do have the antibody, I know exactly when I was, and all I had was a sore throat for 5 days, and that was it. And I went to class. I did everything because I was fine. And who knows how many people I spread to. The asymptomatic part is what makes this really difficult to root out. So.
Yeah, especially I think that's one of the main reasons why so many universities shut down, is because I don't think they were really worried about us contracting severe symptoms, but I feel like a lot of us were asymptomatic. They say, youth are the biggest carriers of coronavirus. So, we weren't really hit that severely, but I do believe that it was a good decision to shut down these universities, because we were sort of like a catalyst to infect a lot of other people.
Right. And that's the thing too, is like, even though I am, that category of like, I'm healthy, I've actually been trying to work out a lot, not a flex, just saying. Just been trying to work out more with all the time we have here at the, with the pandemic and stuff. So I'm trying to work on my diet a little bit. I just turned 21 though, so that's a little bit of an issue in terms of staying healthy. Obviously. But, it's obviously there's a lot of things too where, people, my family likes to watch the news. I don't know if your family does as well. It seems like that's the generation divide between ours and then the Gen Xers that are our parents. But it's just, they have the news on all the time. And then you get reports that, like, okay, around here at least, there were a couple nursing homes that really had a ton of cases and had a high number of deaths. And I'm just like, if I were to, like, make the worst virus or bacteria in a lab and put it in a nursing home, it's going to run rampant on that nursing home. Do you know why? Because the people in the nursing home are in there because they can't take care of themselves anymore on their own.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
When they report stuff to like that, my response is always, well, duh. Like, yeah, that's going to happen. That's how this works. Like, that's and it's once again, it's very sad, but also, like, I think a lot of times people, especially with this, we've seen it too, that people will just throw logic out of the way, right? They just panic, and it's like, okay. Once again, I do think it was important. I want to keep saying this, that we had to shut down. We had to get data, right? Because we didn't know what this was, so we had to get some data. We got that data right there. Older people, immunocompromised, and then people with some respiratory issues and stuff like that, or other people that frankly just aren't super healthy, and that may be because of their own lifestyle choices, and that also may be just because they're sick, they have cancer, they have asthma, whatever. So that's why we still do have to do our part. And to the people who complain about wearing a mask, it takes 5 seconds. Okay?
Yeah, it takes 5 seconds, exactly.
If I can take my MCAT with a mask on, I'm sorry, people. I sat there for 6 hours with that thing on. Okay, you can do it. You can wear it to Walmart. I promise. Like, it's just it's ridiculous to me that became such a big thing, And then have you seen? I know I'm going on and on, but have you seen this card that they're printing out that they're saying it's like a government issued thing where it's like I have a mask exemption?
It's ridiculous. I mean, no doctor or no actual official is going to say that you can't wear a mask. I feel like 99.9% of the population is qualified to wear a mask. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of people are arguing that it may not be as effective. Okay, so what if it's not effective? It's a minor inconvenience that you have to deal with, and if it is effective, you could potentially be saving so many lives. So the whole mask debate is a little ridiculous. I think it's more on the principle rather than the mask itself. Is that we have this ethos of freedom and autonomy, and that like no one can tell me what to do, sort of thing. And I think based off of that, people are rebelling against this mask because I feel like as Americans, we love to rebel against any sort of norms or government mandates that they give us. So I think it comes more from a place of that than actually being inconvenienced by wearing a mask.
Yeah, I think there's two things there that I think to touch on what you're saying there is you talk about rebelling, right? And that people, that's what we love to do with autonomy and such. How do I put this tactfully? The leadership of the country right now is not good. They have not been helpful. Because you look at certain other countries that did very well. I have been looking at this through the lens of how people are running their sports leagues. That's what motivates me. I'm sorry. I know. I guess it's not the biggest deal, but I think it's actually a good way to look at which countries have been struggling and not that they've been able to bring it back. So we will use Germany then as an example, right? Because Germany was the first league they're the first country, to have their league back and functioning and actually traveling. They weren't in a bubble. They weren't in one place. They were playing home and away games, empty crowds, of course.
Yeah.
But it's just, okay, what did Germany have? Collective buy-in, a top-down, though, approach, right? Their leader, obviously, Angela Merkel. I don't have too many opinions of her. I don't know much about her. But I do know that she is more stable and a much better leader than the current person we have in office. And we could discuss that kind of stuff in a second about what may or may not happen in November. But, there hasn't been that thing, right? And the WHO, the CDC, at first they're like, masks aren't that effective. And I guess what I've been hearing now is that they just lied, saying that's because they needed more for medical health professionals. So now that leads people now to be like, well, why do I have to put one on now? Why are you telling me that now? Mm-hmm. And, I just, obviously it's expected with what's been happening the past 4 years, but it's just, we don't have leadership. We don't have leaders out there, in office or anywhere really telling us. Some states have been much better with leadership there. And some just have been worse, and especially when there's no national top-down approach to that, like that, it's really difficult. And to your point about masks in general, it's like once again, just logic. If I'm sick, right, and I cough, nothing on, right, that's going everywhere. Like if you, right. I think they posted pictures. I think it was United Airlines or something like that. Mm-hmm. Posted, or it might have been something else. I don't know. I'm misquoting. Sorry. Don't copyright me. When it was like a graphic of when you cough and how far the air from your cough will expand.
Yeah, I see that
it's
too,
insane.
On Instagram and stuff. Yeah.
But okay, obviously if you have a mask on, some of that's going to get through. But I would like to see that visual because it's just logically, like if you covering the opening, less of the air is going to get through. It's just, once again, just think about it, people.
Definitely. It's very obvious. It's just like putting a net in front of your face. Yeah, some things may be able to get through, but 99% of those air particles that you're coughing out will all be in the mask. So,
yeah. So, and the leadership thing is just appalling right now.
And I honestly see it from both sides. I don't think there's a strong leadership move from either side of the aisle. And I feel like, honestly, this is the best time for the Democrats to capitalize on the situation and show that they are presenting strong leadership. But unfortunately, at a national level, even they aren't able to provide a strong leadership over this issue. I believe at a state level, both Republican and Democratic governors are able to take a good stance on this issue. And, a lot of states have been able to take control of this. But at a national level, I don't think the people have either party to look to for guidance or advice.
Yeah, I've in the past couple of years, I've really not years. I've been trying to educate myself more in politics, especially with what's going on now, because there's no excuse for me to sit on the sidelines here and just watch things go by. Mm-hmm. I hate both parties, and I just do. I hate. Yeah, two-party system, whatever. Like, you're able to have fluctuations, obviously better than a one-party system. But goodness gracious, what it's become to is insane. I was telling someone, one of my friends, at a campfire we were having, or just a bonfire. Sorry, I don't know why I made it like a camp thing. I don't go camping. It's not my skill set.
Yeah, neither here. Yeah.
But that if you were to give a Google form, right? Because they do 15 things on their platforms each, right? Every couple of years. Yeah. So if you were to do that thing, right? And I'm not saying which way I lean on any of these issues, right? But 15 questions, you put abortion, taxes, public health, environmental, whatever, all that jazz, everything, right, onto that form, and you hand it to somebody. I feel like 95% and maybe more of people will not line up all 15 questions on either side. It's crap. It's complete crap right now. What we have edged ourselves into with that stuff. No, I say I probably fiscally lean more conservative. That's not really a super deep thing of mine, though. I haven't read up on it. I certainly will be continue informing myself on that. And then socially, I'm very left. Just because it doesn't matter to me when a lot of things happen, would be for instance, gay marriage, obviously. Just right. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but the fact that that's almost like being in the middle, right? I mean, and I really do think most of America is in there, and that what we all see on the news, what we see on our Twitter feeds and stuff and Instagram is just the most extreme people on either side, and it makes us think we're all so divided. Yeah, the parties themselves are very polarized, sure, but I don't think the general American population is following that change. Do you? Because when I go out and talk to people from when I come back here, when I talk to people from school, when we talk now, when I talk to a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, I don't see those people on Twitter. You know what I mean? It's a very reasonable conversation, even if we have disagreements about a couple different things.
No, I completely agree with you. I think most people tend to lean moderate. They may be favoring one party over another slightly, but I don't think they may agree with everything that the party that they vote for do. However, I feel like we have this sort of polarized culture. It's because the small minority on both sides that are very polarized are the most vocal. I don't think the people in the middle are as vocal on social media and all these other platforms as people who are super polarized on one side or like on the right or the left. And those are the voices that we tend to hear a lot more than, I guess, voices like mine or yours that are more in the center, more moderate, relatively compared to these other groups.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to get famous, right? Is just to say a bunch of crazy shit, and you'll get retweeted and reposted by people and stuff like that, and you'll get famous that way, right? That's how a lot of political commentators have made their money in their life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we learn about this in psychology too, right? Like this whole group polarization thing. People sort of put themselves in these bubbles, like either a conservative or a liberal bubble on Twitter, and they may have started off more moderate in their views, but then they consistently see only one side of an issue, and then they start aligning more and more to the extreme of that issue, just because they haven't been exposed to a lot of the counter arguments. Like a lot of the friends that I have, most of them tend to be very liberal, and I feel like a majority of them haven't actually seen what the other side has to say at all. And they often mischaracterize their arguments just because they haven't taken that active effort to, educate themselves on, okay, what is the counter argument to what I'm presenting? And because of that, I feel like, and I'm sure the other side does that as well, I think because of that, we aren't able to have meaningful conversations. We're just talking in an echo chamber where everyone agrees with what you say, and there's not as much of an understanding between, why the other side believes what they do.
Yeah, your point on social media is one that does not get brought up enough, because what ends up happening, right? All these things are now, they've taken such machine learning, in that they're all it's all built in now. So every time you interact with something, every time you click on something, every time you like something on Twitter, on Instagram, on something like that, it will slowly curtail your feed to the point to where now you only see stuff that you want to see, and like you said, like that ends up bridging a big gap there. I recently went through when I was working out one day, and I muted because frankly, social media to me, I've always kind of been on it just for sports stuff, and I think it's funny to watch celebrity culture stuff. That's just me, and people use it for whatever, because I used to use it as a newspaper, and I realized that's just wrong, because it's not the news. It's not. It's just all slanted stuff. It's the same thing as watching only Fox or watching only, I don't know what the liberal one is, NBC, CNN, whatever, something.
Yeah, MSNBC or whatever it is. Yeah.
So and then the problem is you tell yourself, right, that it's not slanted. Like the people who watch Fox are like, Fox is the most center. Mm-hmm. No, it's not. It never is. It never has been. But people will tell themselves that they truly believe that. But so I went through my social media, and I didn't care to have the fights of the social implications of like, you unfollowed me, so sad. It's like, yeah, I don't want to see your stuff. I don't care. Like we haven't talked. We graduated together, but there's nothing else there. We haven't talked in 4 years. Are you surprised?
Right.
But I just went through and muted people, so I didn't have to deal with that and waste more time on it. Because I'm like, I don't want to see your stuff. I don't care about your opinion. I'm sorry. I want to watch The Rock do stuff. I want to see Woj tweet out NBA tweets, and I want to see my friends' close ideas, my close friends, and that's it. That's really it. And the issue now I have with that is I'm trying to figure out what is a good, reliable source. I think for news and such, political stuff like that. So I'm undergoing that process right now. I'm trying to figure out a nice show or something like that, or what newspaper to look into to actually get a decent understanding of what's happening. So
I think what I like to do is, in regards to, taking a more neutral approach to news, I feel like all news outlets, they'll have some sort of implicit bias, but a lot of international news outlets that report on America, tend to have less of a bias than a lot of the domestic news outlets, like for example BBC News. People say that they are a little bit more left leaning. However, I'd say they're a lot more neutral than a Fox or an MSNBC. So I get some of my news from there. Also, I go into a news source knowing that it's a little bit more biased and just trying to see what they have to say. For example, I may take a look at Fox News and MSNBC in the same day and see their different perspectives on the same situation, because they both show like the complete opposite view on the same event that happened, where you think like they're two different events. And I try to sort of make my own perspective based off of that. Also, I feel like our generation compared to, like you said, the Gen X, we take a look at a lot more like podcasts and more long format information sources rather than just news, which is more sensationalized, and you get a headline, a one sentence headline, and that's where you get your information from. We tend to, reach out to podcasts like, Joe Rogan. This is a super popular podcast like among our generation where we get a lot of our information from. So I think the way we access information is a little bit different too.
It definitely makes sense, and podcasts are a great source for anybody looking for any information or stuff like that on drives and such like that. And Joe Rogan's the best. I mean, he's the man. Talk about a diverse man right there.
And he got that bag from Spotify. I think was it, like 100 million or something.
Just to have it on the platform. Spotify's not even buying it, just to say it's exclusive. Which means now I have to shift all of my podcasts to Spotify now to accommodate that. But I mean, that's okay. I use Spotify for music, so it's just a pain. But yeah, what do you think about we talked about the Democrats and Republicans, their national leadership right now with Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden? I am not excited.
Yeah, I definitely think the Democratic Party took more of a safe approach. I'd say there were a lot more enthusiastic Bernie Sanders supporters out there, but I don't think the party, just because based on the current political climate, he may appeal to a lot of Democrat voters. However, in the mainstream election, I still believe his ideas are a little bit too left and a little too radical for most mainstream Americans to accept just yet. I think that's why the party decided to go with Joe Biden, just because he's a little bit more, moderate center. He has that Obama, guarantee with him, right? Like Obama endorsed him, and Vice President Obama. And Obama's generally well liked, especially as a person. Maybe people have differing views about his policies, but as a person, most people tend to respect him. So I think that's why they decided to go to Biden. But it's more, don't pick Trump rather than, be super excited about Joe Biden.
Right. That's what I've been hearing from a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But do you think Biden has dementia?
Honestly, based on some of the videos I've seen and stuff, I don't know if he has dementia. Like, I don't know what the condition actually is, but he definitely has some sort of neurological problem. Like just the way he talks and forgets things during his speeches. I definitely feel like there's something going on, and they're really trying to hide it just because no one wants to elect a president who has some sort of neurological disorder. I definitely believe that he has something. It doesn't seem normal.
You could also, on the other hand, argue that Trump does, and I would associate more personality issues such as narcissism and such with him. But you could argue, they're similar age. The other thing with Biden, did you hear what he said the other day about how many people died of corona?
No, I haven't heard about that. What did he say?
Okay, let me see if I can pull it back up on Twitter. It was I think he said. Well, no, right. You don't need to hear it. 128 million people died of COVID in America. Holy cow!
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane.
It's problematic.
What do you believe about Joe Biden though? Do you believe he has any sort of like disorder or condition or anything, or do you think people are just hyping it up?
Oh no, I definitely. First of all, that kind of a comment, like you're telling me a presidential candidate is really going to do that out in the public, and he just doesn't look good. Like when he goes out, like just looking at his face, when he's out talking, he just doesn't look good. So obviously he's 70. What?
75 or something. I can look it up.
So it's literally at the last couple years of life
Yeah,
expectancy.
he's 77. He's 77. And if he gets elected, he'll be in office until he's 81 years old, which is very old, especially with all the stress and everything that you have to deal with being president of the United States. It's tough. And that's one thing that I'll give Trump credit for. I feel like no matter what you believe about his like policies or whatever it is, he is quite energetic and really is able to conduct these large crowds when he goes to these rallies. And it's surprising at his age, like, he's very old as well, but he's able to conduct himself with that much energy.
Yeah, I definitely think something's going on with Biden cognitively. I don't blame him either. Like he's old. Like that's what happens. Maybe just shouldn't have the old guy running for president. Maybe that's the thought. Trump's just as old, but he's just an asshole. I mean, that we've known for a long, long time.
Yeah, and he's like that playground bully at debates. I'm really scared for Joe Biden because Trump will give you no content, no like actual substance when it comes to his policies at debates, but he does know how to make his opponent look really bad at these debates. So I'm really scared for how Joe Biden is going to be able to, handle that aspect.
I don't think he is. I think he's going to get smashed.
Yeah, me too.
He already said he doesn't want to debate Trump more than 3 times, I think I saw from the Washington Post or something like that. So there you go.
Like a COVID excuse or something like that. He'll say, I don't want to do it because I don't want to promote COVID or whatever. But I don't know how he'll handle debating Trump.
I don't think he will, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, if this is politically incorrect, but I also don't think he would make it 4 years in office. I think that VP job, I mean, I think he said he wanted to give it to a woman, right?
I think Kamala Harris, I don't know if I said that right, but he's looking into having Kamala Harris be his VP. He also reached out to our governor, Gretchen Whitmer, for the job, but she declined it, obviously, because she'd have to give up the governorship. But yeah, it's funny because like I feel like if the Democratic Party would have just given one decent candidate, right? It's not that hard, especially when you're going up against competition like Trump. Someone just a little bit more like stable, like it doesn't even have to be as like good of a talker as Obama. It just has to be someone like easy to vote for, I guess. It just makes our job even more difficult now with both of these candidates. So.
Yeah, because no, you're right, and the real fault of the Democratic Party is for everything Trump was doing, right? Ever since he got elected, right? All they've been doing is complaining and whining. A lot of that is for sure like applicable, right? But also, if they put half or maybe even less than that of that energy into developing a good internal candidate, they would have wiped the floor with Trump this election. And now, I'm not endorsing this at all. I'm not saying one's better than the other at all. I think Trump's going to wipe the floor with him and win again. I know the polls have Biden way out in front right now. Once again, I don't know what we can even trust from polls anymore because I don't know.
Exactly. Last election, polls had Hillary Clinton up a lot higher, had her winning the election by a landslide, and then everyone was like shocked when Trump ended up winning. Yeah.
And I don't even know who answers polls anymore, so that probably feeds into it. I don't get reached out to for polls. Thankfully, that's not an ad. I don't want them. Please, someone signed me up for Bernie texts, and that was a problem. Yeah. That was really annoying. But yeah, it's horrible because especially we can transition out a little bit into talking about Black Lives Matter and stuff like that.
Right?
Is that? A lot of people are correctly saying go out there and vote and enact change. And, of course, a lot of it's also not on the national level. A lot of it's on the local and state level where a lot of these issues are taking place. But at the same time, it's like, okay, go out there, vote, and you have Joe Biden or Donald Trump. And it's like, wow, this sucks. It just sucks. There's, like, neither, like, it's just... you've mentioned Obama a couple times. The thing Obama that, based on what I've been, we were obviously younger when he was elected, but he got people excited, right? He got people to get out there and go. Biden's not getting anybody excited, really. I don't think he is, except for the Democrats themselves, because they did everything in their power to make sure he powered through, and they're going to stand his corpse up when he's still in office, just to make sure. everything's going on. Which, by the way, if Harris is the VP pick, and I think she will be, that's your first woman president. Congratulations. Seriously, it's going to be true.
I don't know how he's going to handle all that stress if he gets elected. It worries me.
He's going to forget it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's bad. No, once again, I don't advocate for either. I think Trump's also terrible, as he's proven the past 4 years. So I just, there's just nothing exciting.
I think in these recent elections, I try to look more at policy rather than the individual, just because when you try to go based on like the individual person, it's very hard to pick. However, when you look at, okay, if this individual comes in and his party gets into more power, like what type of policies will they enact? And do I support that or do I not support that? And based on that, I try to make my decision more now instead of the individual itself, because at this point, we don't really have many options to work with.
But that's the problem too. Like going back to the two-party system, then what do? You just do a direct compare of like, all right, this or that. They're just your highest priority at that point. Like I'm genuinely wondering, because to me, my first inclination would be, I don't agree 100% with either of these candidates, first of all, and also with either of these parties. I'm just going to go to the third party. I'm going to show my displeasure with those two sets of ideas by doing that. I know a lot of people disagree with me. They'll go and vote for the lesser of two evils, which to me, if we had as many people, obviously I don't think a third party is necessarily going to win. And the most successful one recently was Teddy Roosevelt, right? When he ran alongside Taft, I believe, and Woodrow Wilson, of course, won the election. So I'm not saying like I really think my candidate's going to win, but that's the thing. Like I'm not playing this for a team thing. Like I have enough teams that disappoint me, as we are both Lions fans. I get it. Trust me, I know what that's like. But I just feel like if the amount of people that were displeasured with this system, right, that were displeasured with the two political sides, the polarization, would vote third party and show that, you guys are losing a lot of members. You guys don't want this, because at the end of the day, their organizations, they thrive on having younger people like us and more just in general people involved in their thing. So if all of a sudden 30% of people, I don't know, voted for a third party, let's say be conservative like that, that would show them that they really need to enact change. But a lot of people don't think that way. I think, a lot of times I've heard the third party is a wasted vote, and it's like, no, but that mentality means you waste it, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong. I'm curious to hear your thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, personally, even though I may agree with a lot of the things that, third party candidates support for, I usually tend to support voting for one of the major parties, just because very realistically, like you said, the odds of a third party candidate winning is very low. What I think, sort of the problem that you're having is a lot of these issues aren't being they're so split up between this two party system that you don't really know which one to vote for. I think what I've seen is a lot of these grassroots movements that gain traction, especially during the primaries and stuff. If you go out and support those, the major party tends to pick it up.
Okay.
So I tend to be more of a supporter of that, but I do sort of fall in that camp where if I were to go out to vote, I would definitely vote for one of the two major parties, just because, yes, you are making a statement by voting for a third party. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's like a wasted vote, because people still see, how many votes are going to that third party, and both parties realize that if that third party is getting a lot of votes, maybe we should adopt some of the policies from that party. However, when voting for a national election at that scale, my rationale is if I'm not voting for the party that I may not completely agree with, but I agree with a lot more than the other party, I may, in a way, be contributing to the other party, which I don't really agree with, getting into office. So, although I completely support supporting small grassroots movements and third-party movements before the general election and trying to get them to that sort of national stage. For example, one of the candidates that I was really excited about during these Democratic primaries, which I talked to you off air about, was Andrew Yang, right? Yeah. He proposed this policy about universal basic income, which I thought was a really good policy. And it's pretty controversial. I haven't done as much research on it, but whatever I have done, it seems like a pretty good idea. And I was pretty excited to have that policy being implemented into one of the two major parties. And I have a prediction that in the next 10 years, from it being like a taboo subject, because a lot of mainstream politicians still don't want to talk about that. The next 10 years, it seems like it'll go towards more of the Democratic side, but the Democratic Party will start taking that idea more seriously. And for me, that's a victory in a way. But yeah, when it comes to voting, I still tend to support one of the two major parties.
I gotcha. And Yang's universal basic income, just so I understand as well, I know you said you haven't looked too much into it, but the basis of it is that we're going to soon have a lot more jobs that are automated and such, so there's not going to be the amount of people in the workforce are going to go down, so the amount of people earning money is going to go down, so that allows you to also be creative but also earn a stable income. Is that correct? Is that what I'm understanding?
In a way, yes. So this policy of universal basic income is already applied in Alaska, where the oil industry is pretty big, and yeah, it's a red state, right? It's very conservative. However, they have this policy implemented, and the way it works is, if you're a resident of Alaska, you get a check from the government just for allowing the government to oil on those lands, basically, to extract oil on those lands. So the rationale is that now we have all this AI technology I feel like people aren't giving this enough attention that it deserves, but within the next 10 years, the way our marketplace will be completely different than now. Like, so many jobs, I think don't quote me on this, but I think 60% of the jobs that we have right now have to do with retail, and it's service oriented, right? And a lot of this AI technology will be able to replace a lot of these jobs. So we have a lot of these workers being displaced, and the common thing is, okay, re-educate, relearn, but it's really hard for a truck driver to be, a software engineer. Like, it's very impractical. So the rationale behind the universal basic income is that we are taking this, I guess, resource, this common resource, AI, that is displacing a lot of jobs, and giving that money back to the people in the form of $1,000 per month. And we acquire that money in the form of a VAT tax, and tax these major companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, whatever these big tech companies are, who right now aren't paying anything in taxes or very little, and get that money and distributed that a tax and a VAT tax on all these major tech companies, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And obviously, when Yang was up there and talking and doing a lot of different press conferences and stuff, he seemed like a really intelligent guy and someone who really brought up, but he never had a shot this election cycle, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. He did not have a shot at all. It's just that it was the one candidate I was sort of excited for based on all these other ones, and I feel like the excitement's not there for Biden. Another candidate I saw a lot of people being excited for were Elizabeth Warren had a lot of excitement, Bernie Sanders as well, obviously,
right?
But Biden ended up winning, so that's what we have to work with.
It's collusion. That's what that is. Mm-hmm. We all know it. But okay. Last topic of the day here. I might get canceled for this, but this is going to provoke discussion and allow me to learn, and that is what we're here for on this earth. I don't understand the defund the police movement. It doesn't make fundamental sense to me. And I say that, and the reason I say that is because, for one thing, after having some conversations with different people and such, I don't want to out them or anything like that, it's clear to me that there needs to be a lot more training on stuff like martial arts and such, and defense tactics like that, because they barely get any. It is appalling how low that number is. So you don't necessarily need less money for that, because that's the first thing they're going to cut, which is going to lead more issues. But I also think, to me, the word systemic is being used very frequently, and it's true. To me, if you're just going to get rid of policing systems and stuff like that, right? And police officers and stuff like that, I think you're only putting a Band-Aid on it, truly, because I think that it's a symptom of a larger societal problem we have in this country of systemic bias. It's in business. It's in in real estate, it's in sports, it's in ownership of businesses, it's everywhere. It's in just social life, it's in walking down the street type of stuff. It's all there. So, and I just think that when you have a high pressure job as a police officer, and I'm not excusing their behavior, I'm just trying to give an example of why this is the most prevalent symptom we have of this problem, and the most volatile, obviously, because people are dying here unjustly. They are dying terrific, horrible deaths for no reason at all. So, but to me, I don't understand taking away all the money. I understand that there have been some police departments that do get so corrupt and are so horribly run that they've dismantled them and literally just cleaned house and then brought it back in. But the fact of removing them completely from cities doesn't make too much sense to me. And I would actually, I would cite Detroit as an example of a department that is very underfunded already because the city has no money, and I don't think you or I are going to Detroit anytime soon just to walk around the streets down there. It's not safe, and it's been one of the worst cities in America, sadly, for 70 years now. So that's my thing. I am completely open to more people coming and informing me. Please do. But through the conversations I've had, to the research I've done now, if that's the end goal, I don't think that fixes it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think there are sort of two versions of the same movement. Some people refer to defunding the police as reducing their budget, right? And other people refer to defunding the police as like a complete taking away all money from police departments and reallocating them towards social work and other services that can be provided to society. I think both solutions, however, are a very simple solution to a very complex problem that we're facing. And I don't think it's addressing the right issue either. I don't think that police departments having more or less money is resulting in this sort of police brutality against innocent people. What I believe is that there isn't a system of checks and balances, or maybe an effective enough system of checks and balances implemented in the police system that allows them to get away with conducting these sort of things. Because to a certain extent, you can't really control how a person, has systemic biases or racial biases against other people. However, I feel like you can control if they're able to act on those biases or not. And right now, the way the system's set up, I don't think there's enough of a safeguard to prevent police, even racist police, which I'm saying I think most police are pretty good people. Most police men do a great job. They defend communities, put their life on the line every day. So I'm not trying to bash on all police or majority of police, but those minority that are racist and that do abuse their power, there should be a system of checks and balances in place, like body cameras or an external way of checking a police department and seeing if they have corruption to make sure that they aren't acting on those racial biases.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, obviously, increasing the responsibility, because it's a very big job, obviously, with everything happening, and it's a very crucial one. And along those lines, have you seen that it takes more hours to get your, your hair license and stuff like that, to cut hair and do that kind of thing, than to become a police officer in this country? That's horrible. Yeah. That's disgusting.
I have seen that, and I think I'd want to go into more detail, though, in terms of what it actually takes to become a police officer, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we can say, increase the hours, but they have to be meaningful hours as well, right? But I definitely agree that they should have more training in martial arts and other ways, other more non-violent ways, rather than just pulling out a gun to defuse a situation.
Yeah.
And there needs to be more resources allocated towards preparing police officers better that way. However, I still believe that the main issue is an abuse of power.
Yeah.
It's power being unchecked right now, and I think that's the main reason why police officers are able to get away with a lot of these things. It's because they don't have any ramifications when conducting these atrocities. So if I had to pick a solution to stick with right now, I would say that needs to be focused on first. There needs to be maybe some sort of external board or something reviewing how police officers are conducting themselves, or there needs to be some enforcement system on the police officers who are enforcing these laws to make sure that they aren't abusing their power, because that's what I see the most right now.
Right. That makes a ton of sense. And I also think, kind of like we were hinting at here and what you discussed a little bit earlier, is that this isn't a simple solution. If it was this simple, it wouldn't have happened, And unfortunately, this type of stuff is deeply rooted into our country. It was when it was founded in 1776. In 1783 in the Constitution, we the people are all equal. No, they haven't been, and up to this point, they still are not. And it's hard because I don't. This isn't something we can just paper over, and I don't. Obviously, I think there's a lot of different things you can allocate money towards and such like that, but I don't think that, as we were talking about, we're both saying, it doesn't solve it, right? Because that's hundreds and hundreds of years of built up systemic bias and racist stuff, and it's I think there's a big movement. I think the fact that you and I are having this conversation, I mean, when I first started this, I never would have thought I would have this type of conversation on here, just because it'd be like, yep, not my arena. We're moving away. I'm not dealing with that. And as a white male, I could do that. Yeah. Is that correct of me? Absolutely not. It's not anymore. It's not okay for me to just sit on the side and think, okay, I'm not racist. I mean, that's good. I'm set. I've done my duty. No, that's not. And that's what I've been seeing a lot. There's a lot of stuff about people talking about how to be anti-racist, right, and how to, a lot of resources. And I really appreciate everybody sharing, because it's really a field in a world I had no understanding to. I've never been profiled. I've never been exposed to those kind of issues. So just stepping into that arena and trying to understand all of this and understand decades and decades and decades and centuries of this stuff, and everywhere too. It's everywhere as well. It's all across the world. This isn't just an America problem either. Unfortunately, there's too many stories I see from England and soccer and stuff like that where bananas are thrown and fans are banned because of slurs they use towards the players, the people they're paying to see. So it's it's something that I'm really going to try to make an effort to, not really try to, I'm going to make an effort to educate myself and learn more and help. And that's why I wanted to bring it up and talk about it, because where I am right now with my view towards specifically defunding the police, but also obviously I support the movement in general. There need to be changes made in a lot of our areas, in our downtown cities that used to be safe, incredible, bustling areas that are now downtrodden, and our I guess I don't want to say home city, but I mean, in the way it is, Michigan's biggest city is Detroit, and Detroit's a big example of that. And it's certainly, I think it's going to be a long road, but I think that I'm encouraged by all the conversations that have been happening, and a lot of people who I think, like me, are just like, I need to get involved. We're not on the sidelines anymore, because change will come with what we do as a generation and as a united people. So we need change, that's for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. However, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I have a little bit more of a pessimistic approach to a certain extent. I think the way our society is structured right now, it's very hard to change people's mindset, especially we're only 20 years old, right? We've had 20 years to form the opinions that we do. However, a lot of people who have these racial biases and are in law enforcement and stuff, they're probably in their 40s, 50s, right? And it's very hard to change their mindset right now. So what I think is more important is focusing resources on the future generations that are coming up, right, in our like public education systems and stuff, and educate them about the negative impacts of having these sort of racial biases and having prejudices against other people, and telling them that, hey, like this is wrong. These are the negative impacts on that. And for now, I'd say, although it's possible to change people's minds, I think it's more important that we put into place a system where even if people do have this mindset, they aren't able to act on it in a negative way that would impact someone negatively.
Right. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. So
Yeah.
It's going to be long change, that's for sure. But I think, obviously with each generation, you can see it's very clearly more and more progressive, more and more inclusive, more and more understanding and willingness to learn about some stuff. So
Definitely.
yeah. So I think we got to keep having conversations like this and stuff like that. So
And I'm happy this movement's become so big in the last couple of months, because I know a lot of these sort of events have been happening over the past couple of years, but the movement, it's the first time I've seen this movement gain so much traction and so much public attention compared to the last couple of years. And I think one of the reasons why it has gained so much movement is, first, we're all in quarantine, so we have a lot of time to look into making society better, right? Quarantines and coronavirus sort of acted as a pause on our society to see, what places are we good at, what places do we need improvement. But also the video that a lot of people saw about George Floyd getting brutally murdered by this cop. It's just, if you have a conscience, it's just plain wrong. There's no debate around it. A lot of other situations, the camera quality is hazy. There's multiple perspectives. Well, okay, was this person acting as like a threat, whatever? There is room for debate. I think in this case, though, was one of the first times where I saw that there's absolutely no debate on whether this was justified or not. Everyone across the aisle agreed this was, unjustified and wrong. And I think this is what it took for a massive change like this massive movement like this to gain traction.
I completely agree with you on everything there. That it really, like, watching that video is just heartbreaking.
Right.
Hopefully, I mean, it's definitely sparked a lot of different conversations that wouldn't have happened in the first place. So I think I hope it just leads to more change and more understanding, and that people are more open to different experiences than what they go through in a daily basis.
And I really hope that this sort of passion that people have right now translates into votes, right, in this upcoming election, because this is the perfect time, in a way, to implement change. And yeah, we don't have the best candidates, right, but this is still a good time to have some sort of change, even if not at a national level, at a local level.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The local level is really important.
Yeah, and I feel like people underestimate that a lot, too. They always focus on the national election, but a lot of the policies that really impact your daily life are your local and state level elections, basically. The people that you vote in there are really the ones who are making a more direct impact on the quality of your life, compared to a national election is more like wide-scale changes, right? So...
Right, completely agree. But yeah, we'll keep moving forward and keep learning, keep understanding with that for sure. So We've done an hour, sir.
Oh, we have. I didn't even realize. We've just been talking.
That's the best times. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Great debut. And we're gonna have to do some other stuff coming up with all this. Glad we finally got to do it.
Definitely, yeah. I'd love to come back on for sure.